Okay guys, so welcome back for some more while loop notes. So one question that some people might have had is, well, if I have a while loop, can I put an if statement inside a while loop? And the answer to that is, of course. I mean, you could put a while loop in a while loop, but you could put any code you like inside the squigglies of that while loop. So for example, let's say you had this that was going up by 1 every time. Just a traditional while loop where we have a counter that's 0 initially, we're going up to 100. And let's say we only want to print out the multiples of 5. So we only want to print out the multiples of 5. So basically, if we divide by 5, like 5 or 10 or 15, that would be when I% 5 is 0. So if that I% 5 equals 0, that is the only case that I'm going to print them out. So I'm going to go through all the numbers, but I'm only going to print out the multiple of 5s. And then that'll be the number as we go. So the I is 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, all the way up through 100. Okay, so and we see that actually does go ahead and just print out only the multiples of 5 there. Okay, so that's one thing. A lot of times you're going to want to do this. You will put if statements inside a while loop, and maybe, if it's an even number, you do X. If it's an odd number, you do Y. There are a lot of different possibilities there. Okay, here is the next thing we're going to talk about. I'm going to get into some different structures of while loops here. And there's not just one way to structure a while loop. So I'm just going to show you a couple of possibilities, and when you do your labs, I'm going to let you decide what works for you. Okay, so let's have a type of program where I have the user type in a name until they type in the correct name. So say we have the user type in a name until they type in Mitch Money. So this would be like a password generator, or not password, password checker, right? You have them keep typing in a password until they type in the correct password. So I could do this a couple different ways. So first way is I could set up a string, right? So I could set up an initial string, and this is just going to be an empty string. This is a way just to set it up as empty. And then I'm going to say, wow, it is not true that that name equals Mitch Money. I'm basically just going to ask them to type it in. Okay, oops. Type in name. Okay, and then of course I'll save it under the name variable. I already declared it out here, so I'll just do name equals sc.nextLine. Okay, so what this is going to do is this is going to go through my code. It's going to say, okay, name is empty. Is empty equal to Mitch Money? No. So I'm going to run through this loop. And as I run this through, I'm going to type in something that's not Mitch Money. So I'll type in my initials. Nope. Boris? Nope. So every time I change name to Boris, is Boris Mitch Money? No. Is Gary Mitch Money? No. So when I finally type in Mitch Money, now it's going to be good. So now when I type in Mitch Money, it sees that this condition is no longer true, so it skips beyond the while and continues down with my code. Okay, so that's one way you could do it. I'm going to show you a different way you could structure your loop. So another thing is you could set up a Boolean variable. So I could set up, say, Boolean correct equals false. And I could have my loop say, while correct is equal to false. And again, I'll just have the user type in their name in the exact same fashion. Okay? And then after they type in their name, I can check it and adjust the variable. So if they manage to type in the correct name, so if name.equals Mitch Money, then in this case, I will go ahead and set correct to equal true. So that's going to go ahead and actually let me leave the loop. Because it's never, oh, okay, geez. I forgot parentheses. Okay, cool. So as long as I keep kind of running my code here, until I type in Mitch Money, this name variable is always still false. There's no way to change it to be true until I type in Mitch Money. And once I change it to be true there, correct is true, and then we're on the path to success. So that's another way you could do a loop. If that makes sense to you, there are definitely some situations where this kind of thing is nice. There's a third way, and this is kind of living dangerously. So this is dangerous, but fun, I would say. You could set up a loop while true. So when is that true? Always. True is always true. And you could also do something like while 3 is less than 4, for example. So while this is true, we're going to have them type in the name. And again, I'm going to have a special if statement. So if they type in the correct name, I'm going to say if name dot equals Mitch Money. There's a special case to leave a loop. And that special keyword in Java is the break keyword. And the break keyword, all this does is this just breaks out of the loop you are currently going through. So I am currently going through this while true loop. So when I go ahead and run this code, it's okay, geez. I literally did the exact same thing again. Okay. So while I go through this code, as I just keep typing in random names, right? I'm still going through. This true is still true. But when I go ahead and type in the name, it will immediately leave out of this loop. It doesn't wait until the end. Usually it waits till all the way through the end before checking this condition. But if I just break out right away, it will quit out in the middle of the loop. So if I do, for example, I could print out like, this is wrong here. And normally, this is going to print out every time through. But if I type in the correct name, it immediately leaves and does not print that out. It will just say, okay, I'm in this loop. I'm going to print out. I'm done so. Okay. So again, I don't recommend this. This is something you might want to do a while true in some rare cases. Generally better to do other things, but if this works for you, you do you. But that break command is going to be useful at certain times this year. Okay. Some other things you might want to do or might not want to do. You can have what's called an infinite loop. An infinite loop, like the name says, goes on forever. So this could happen on purpose. You could do like a while true, or if you want to just mess with your brother or something, just do while 2 is less than 4. I don't know, let's just make another number. So let's do int j equals 1. And then while 2 is less than 4, I'm just going to do print out that number, j, and then I'll add 1 to it. Okay, now, this is pretty exciting, I suppose. Oh, wow, it actually figured that out. Okay, let's comment that out. It said unreachable because it knows I'm going to get stuck in this loop forever. Anyway, when I go ahead and run this code, we can see it just kind of goes forever, and your computer is kind of going to freak out a little because it's actually using a lot of its processing power. If you get stuck in an infinite loop like this, what you should do is hit the end button down here in JGrasp. That will immediately pause your program and just end it completely. So that's the way you can get out of an infinite loop. But sometimes this happens on accident without even you trying. So for example, this could happen on accident too. Let's say you do, I should have explained what that j++ is. I should mean j equals j plus 1. That's my bad. We'll get to that in a sec. So if I do this exact same loop, if you do something like this, say I want to say while j is bigger than 0. Maybe I meant to say j is less than 1,000 or something. I just totally screwed up bad. But in this case, like instead of having a stopping point, this actually again goes on forever because it just keeps adding, right? This condition's always true. J just gets bigger, it goes 2, 3, 4, 5. It just gets larger and larger. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and stop that right there. But that's another example of where this can happen. So if you are stuck in an infinite loop, just look for some kind of logical issue like that. Okay, I did want to talk about some other things. Some incrementing variables. So I'll teach you that shortcut I just used. Incrementing variables. So let's say you have some number c that is equal to 0. So if you do c++, this is shorthand for c equals c plus 1. Not just c plus 1, it actually changes the value of c. So don't interchange this with c plus 1. It means c equals c plus 1. You're updating a variable as you go. So when you print this out, you will see, you'll see c. So you'll see c has a value of 0, and then you do c++, and Jesus, really good quality coding here. And then we'll run this again, and we see that it has now a value of 1. Okay, and if I were to do this a couple times, right, I do, if I do c++ and then c++ and then print it again, now we'll see that this has a value of, good Lord, we'll see this has a value of 3. Okay, so that's one shortcut. If you want to subtract one from it, you could do C minus minus. So this means C equals C minus 1. So many, they have these built into Java because there's so many times in your code. I swear to God, there's so many times in your code, better update that, where you're going to want to have a variable that every time you go through loop, you're going to want to add one or subtract one to it. So that's why this is useful. Okay. By the way, if you're wondering about the programming language C++, it's just one version better of the programming language C. Ha, ha, ha. Okay. If you want to, if you want to add or subtract or multiply by more than 1, you could do this. You could do C equals, C star equals 3. This means C equals C times 3. So every time you're going to multiply by 3. So right now C has the value of 2. So when I go ahead and do that now, once I set it to be what it was before times 3, now it should have a value of 6. So then after I've done that, I could do like C minus equals 7. So here it had a value of 6. And then this means, of course, C equals the value it was before minus 6, minus 7. And that would set it to be negative 1. For the final value there. Okay, so you could also do, of course, like, C plus equals 1, and this just means C equals C plus 1. It's just like doing C++. It updates the variable to be what it was before plus 1. Okay, so those are some shortcuts you're going to use. We'll use these throughout the year, and like always, bring questions if you got them. I'll talk to you guys soon.